Okay, we need to talk about Istanbul taxi drivers, bro. All right, now taxis are the backbone of any major city's transportation. Every city has them, right? But in Istanbul, things operate, how do you say, a little differently. See, the first thing you have to understand about taxis in Istanbul is, number one, finding the taxi. Yes, every major city has a little bit of problems when it comes to rush hours, right? It's busy, fine, understandable. But Istanbul, you see, is very unique, where it seems like it's always around the clock impossible to find a taxi. You see, taxis in Istanbul are most difficult to kind of obtain between the hours of 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then they're also difficult to find between the hours of 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. So then you're like, okay, so it seems like there's only a kind of a 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. gap, and then either 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. gap when you want to find a taxi. Now you're like, well, I'm not really awake from 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. on a weekday, which is extremely valid. Okay, so it looks like only towards lunchtime I can find a taxi. Well, here's the thing. In Turkey, we have this thing called değişim vakti, or changing time. And this is where the drivers change, because the drivers don't really own the cab, you see. There's some owner that owns the license plate, and then the license plate is put on a cab, and there's some guy who just drives it, right? Whatever. Now, that değişim vakti, you see, is usually between the hours of 2:30 to 3:30. And you remember that gap point we said between 1 and 3? Yeah, it seems like right slap bang in the middle of it. So the only real time you can find a taxi in Istanbul is between the times of 1 and 2 p.m. And you may be like, yo, what's this değişim vakti thing, bro? What's this time change thing, blah, blah? It's where the taxis go to the station to kind of change drivers. So they're usually in a rush to go somewhere, and they prefer to not take customers at that time.
That's weird.
You might be like, what the hell? You know, it looks like it's very difficult to find a cab. That's for like the average native Turk. You see, if you look anything like this, or this, or this, it's usually your chances are much higher. And now you're like, okay, fine, I'm searching. I found one. See, your problems don't end there. Now we're on problem 2. You found one, but what now? There's a thing about Istanbul taxi drivers where they don't like where you go. They're very preferential about where they drive. You might be like, what does that mean? See, in a normal taxi situation, you go, you get in the taxi, and you go, dog, I'm going here, go. Pretty straightforward to me. But you see, in Istanbul, the taxi drivers go, oh, you want to go there? Well, that's too far for me. I'm not going there.
Really?
Really?
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Or, that's too close for me. I'm not going there. Or, there's too much traffic that way. I don't want to go there. These dudes are picking and choosing their customers.
At Reparations Technical Institute, we offer a cornucopia of educational and business opportunities.
Next. So you think you're all hot tamales right now? I'll tell you, once you come down to the base and understand what it's really like to be somebody special.
Next!
Taking a vow of celibacy
Next!
frees your mind
Next!
and your body.
Next!
So you already are hustling, trying to find a taxi, and now you found it. You're like, thank God, oh my God, I can finally go wherever I want to go. And then they don't like it. You might not get the I don't like it issue, but you see, you remember how I had this thing I called, değişim vakti, the time change where they change drivers? Yeah, if you find a taxi then, what happens is the driver goes, well, dog, I'm going this way, so unless you want to go the way I'm going, I'll take you. All right, the bro turns into a bus. Bro, I was in a taxi once and I told this man I wanted to go this location, and he was like, okay, we go. There's slight traffic, there's traffic, fine. This man went, all right, bro, I'm gonna be a buck, like, can I just drop you off here and you just walk? And I was like, what? Next thing I know, I'm walking 25 minutes because a taxi driver did not want to drive me. And that's usually a native issue. Now, tourists do deal with other things. Tourists deal with the whole haggle thing.
Here's a test of honesty. The price is 110 lira, it says on Uber. Let's see what this guy tells me. Is this your taxi, brother? Is this you, yeah? Taxi, yeah? Yes. Yeah. How much for this place? Yeah, how much is that?
Turkish lira.
Lira, yeah.
Lira, 600 lira.
600.
In Turkey, drivers normally have we call it a taximetre, so it's a taxi meter, right? You click it, it turns on, and they just go wherever they're going. There's this new phenomenon where tourists come, they kind of lean over the driver's seat, they go, all right, buddy, let's haggle. I want to go here, let's meet you in the middle. And they obviously overcharge the tourists, and next thing you know, they're making illegal profits. And where both natives and tourists kind of struggle or get hit sometimes is the classic, now this isn't an Istanbul thing, this is anywhere in the world, is the whole like going from the longer route. Now natives usually bypass this because they know the routes, but tourists of course can't. So my recommendation is always, bro, open a Google Maps, all right, and then tell this man where you want to go. And now you're like, cool, I finally found the taxi with the hustle, and cool, this dude agreed to go where I want to go, finally. Now we come to the third part, the driver. See, a lot of the drivers are low-key, very low-key, insane. I've witnessed where this man, the taxi driver, has a cigarette in one hand, driving it the other, has a phone here, and this man holds it with one hand, holds the phone here, and then stick shifts. And as you notice, when I'm doing this weird freaking angle over here, there's no hands left. This man was just letting that vehicle just cruise with no hands on it. Bro, what? Bro, I swear to God, I was like, am I gonna make it home alive in one piece? They're smoking cigarettes. You're not supposed to smoke cigarettes. They don't even ask you. I don't like smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke it myself. I don't like the smell of cigarettes. And then they'll just like light one, bro. They open a little window. It's already reeking of cigarettes. I've seen a taxi driver smoke a cigarette while on the passenger side, it says no smoking sign. Right? So like I said, they're smoking cigarettes, they're on the phone, not paying attention, and they're also like extremely aggressive drivers. Well, then again, so was like 90% of Istanbul drivers, so.
Ne oluyor hocam? Bir dakika. Sence ne olacak?
And aside from the bad driving as well, like they like refuse to put on seatbelts. I've lived in Istanbul for 6 years, by the way, maybe saw like 3 or 4 drivers who wore seatbelts. It was so bad at one point, there used to be this like underground world where they used to sell the end of seatbelts that you could just put on the seatbelt clamp so the beeping stops. You know how some cars beep when you're driving if you don't have a seatbelt? Yeah, instead of wearing a seatbelt, some of these people were just buying that to just make the thing shut up. And if you're trying to get from A to B, bro, agree with whatever this man says. You're just trying to survive. Whatever political views, whatever insane takes. You're trying to say all the extremist takes. Yeah, bro, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. You know how it is. You know how it is.
Open the door.
Lock the door. Open the goddamn door!
No!
You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I'm just trying to survive, bro. I'm trying to go from A to B. Now you listen to me and you're like, cool, well, it looks like you can't find taxis. And by the way, the reason you can't find taxis is they've never increased the taxi number in Istanbul. It's really kind of stayed the same as the population has increased. And that's just the whole like taxi lobby and mafias and yada yada government fun stuff. But you might be saying like, cool, bro, they seem like they're bad drivers. They're dangerous. They have crazy views. They're not really listening to customers. You can't really get them. There's really like, you can't even find them when you try to find them. So you might be going like, why not just use Uber? Well, let me tell you something about Uber. Taxi drivers in Istanbul really don't like Uber. But you see, they like really, really don't like Uber drivers. To the point, they're like beating them on the street, acting insane.
Aracın camını indirdiğine bin pişman oldu. Uber şoförü yumruk üstüne yumruk yedi.
Like calling up their homies, yo, we got one. Gang up, gang up.
İstanbul'da taksi şoförlerinin Uber sürücülerine saldırılarına bir yenisi eklendi. Maltepe'de benzin istasyonunda bekleyen Uber şoförüne taksiyle gelen 3 kişi
What are you doing? If you had better service, maybe I wouldn't want to use an Uber. But then the government finessed Uber, and if you go to Istanbul and you call an Uber app, you get a taxi.
That's suspicious.
And there's also no Lyft, might I add, right? So there's really no options here if you're trying to find a mode of individual transportation. Now, there is this thing called like Martı Tag or Tag, and it's kind of like an Uber for Turkey, and that's kind of been rolling out. But there's huge backlash from the taxi community. Again, the whole antics of kind of like beating them down, bro, hunting them down, freaking like acting like bounty hunters, bro. And like I said, the reason this problem is like never really solved is because there's politicians involved. They own license plates. There's taxi has its own mafia, right? They own license plates, and it's kind of a supply and demand thing. We keep the taxis low, demand is super high. People are the ones that get finessed, but we take the money. And if you bring Uber, it's competition. And the only reason something like Martı Tag or Tag really came out is because the whole argument was like, oh my God, this foreign entity is coming and killing Turkish business. And the guy who owns Martı was like, well, let's make it a Turkish one then. And still there's problems. Now you might be like, oh my God, that sounds so horrible, blah, blah, blah. Now, yes, it is, but Istanbul does have decently to very well transportation and other modes of getting around. So you really don't need just a taxi. But if you do, keep everything I said in mind. And if you're native Turkish, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so stay in tuned. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.